With week 4 of college football now in the books, it's time for my college football top 25 and my top 5 Heisman contenders with 2 new entries this week. Ooh, a little special there. But what's crack-a-lacking? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful, intimate, and sensual football discourse. Now let's go ahead and get to it with my 5 teams that just missed the top 25 this week, starting with Kansas State, who had the big win this week over Oklahoma, who was my ranked 4 team in the nation. Now, they easily would have been in the top 25. They didn't lose to Tulane the previous week, and I know Tulane's a pretty good squad this year, but still leaves a little bad taste in my mouth. Adrian Martinez, the Cat's playing the best football of his career, and probably the best football of his life. But they will get Texas Tech this week, a team that just upset Texas in OT, so they could very well sneak into the top 25. Kansas, we're sticking in state here. Kansas is a 4-0 start. This is the best Kansas squad I've seen in years. Starts with Jalen Daniels, who I'll be talking about later this week in my prospect stock up, stock down, and maybe a guy you'll later hear in this video. But they have been unbelievable. He's been a menace. He had 5 total touchdowns against Duke. So I'm eager. I cannot wait to put Kansas in the top 25. So keep on winning, Kansas. Coastal Carolina, they've looked the best they have all year. The offense is finally looking like it's all clicking. That game against Buffalo really wasn't that close. Or at least it wasn't as close as the scoreboard indicated. And a team that kind of started out a bit weak against teams like Army and such. So they're still undefeated. It's good to see them playing better football. They're right on the cusp of my top 25. UCLA, another undefeated team, though they have not nearly been that impressive. They've come out to multiple slow starts this year, and they kind of had a easy win this week against Colorado, one of the worst teams in the Power 5. You could throw Colorado State. Colorado in general is just not a good football state this year. But yeah, as conference play is now underway, well, we'll see if this UCLA team is for real. Their defense, there's aspects of their defense I really like. Offensively, they still got DTR, so you still got to watch out for them on offense. Cincinnati totally annihilated Indiana. They let them back in that game late, but I mean, This team lost to Arkansas at the beginning of the year, a team that was ranked, that was undefeated going into this weekend, and we'll get to them later in the video. But man, they look good. Looks like finally things are clicking for them. And with how bad like Houston's looked, I'm not gonna lie, I expect them to come out winners of the AAC. Now let's get to my fallers, and I got 3 this week, starting with Florida. They had it was a close game against Tennessee, but one that they never felt like that they were in the driver's seat of. Offensively, the team looked really good, except for like 2 just very unfortunate turnovers in the form of fumbles, and it was rough. Like constantly on second down, the play calling was terrible. They would just run the football, and it led to like short yardage gains, and they would constantly put themselves in 3rd and long situations. The defense did nothing. They had no answer for Hendon Hooker the whole game, and it just feels like that Florida is this middling SEC team. The Miami Hurricanes, I really don't want to talk about this because I'm a Hurricanes fan. They lost to Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee State had a 98-yard touchdown reception on the Hurricanes. Tyler Van Dyke got benched in this game. He's still the quarterback. This is a guy learning a new system, but thus far, at least the last 2 weeks, the bad has been, it's been bad. There's been very little good to talk about. The offense just doesn't look good. Even against their, like, they had cupcake games to start the season. Even in those, they were out to slow starts offensively. There's really no playmakers on that offense. It's tough to watch. So as a Hurricanes fan, I won't. And then we have the Texas Longhorns, who It was sad, like, because the best running back in the nation, Bijan freaking Robinson, amazing. You never see this guy fumble the football, fumbles the football in OT. He literally got laid out. It was a mean hit, but it was just sad. Texas Tech was able to win that game in OT. This is a team still waiting for Quinn Ewers to come back. I still think they are a contender there in the Big 12. The Big 12 looks, especially with Oklahoma going down, looks much closer than what a lot of people at least anticipate. Oklahoma State currently, I think, is probably the odds favorite to win the conference, but they've really faced nobody. They get Baylor this week, so this is their first true test. So we'll see. But with that, let's go ahead and get to my top 25, starting with Syracuse. Syracuse be higher if they didn't almost lose to freaking Virginia. This is a Virginia team that almost lost to ODU, and I know ODU is like the state school killer. They took out Virginia Tech, then they had their claws sunk in Virginia, but Virginia was able to skirt on by with a 16-14 point game or point win. Syracuse needed a late field goal to overcome Virginia. So I'm not entirely feeling good about that, but it was good to see the defense at least perform a bit better, especially Garrett Williams. Florida State, they got their best offensive player back in the form of Jordan Travis. They'll get Jared Verse back either this week or the next week. That's great. I feel great about this Florida State team. They have really played exceptionally well. Welcome to the top 25. Are they legit contenders? They're in the ACC. I legit think they are. I think they can be. The ACC is looking a lot tougher nowadays, but we'll see. Speaking of ACC, we got Pittsburgh here. Pittsburgh, they got out to a fast start against Rhode Island, but they let Rhode Island score points on them. Like, it's hard to move this Pittsburgh team up much, as outside of like their openers, like they had West Virginia. That's a pretty tough team there. And then they lost an OT game against a very good Tennessee squad. But the rest of their season has just been cupcake after cupcake, and they'll get another cupcake this week against Georgia Tech. So I can't wait to really see them be tested again against actual ACC competition. Well, good ACC competition. Georgia Tech, their ACC competition technically, but no one's really fretting over Georgia Tech. Minnesota, they are in the driver's seat to go to the conference championship this year. This is a team, a very veteran team at quarterback, at running back, on that offensive line, and I'm feeling really good about this Minnesota squad as they just annihilated Michigan State. Bye-bye. See you later, Michigan State. So watch out for Minnesota. Wisconsin was another team that just had another loss this year. So they are currently in the driver's seat to be in the Big Ten championship. It's kind of wild. It's like the conference that has like Penn State and Michigan and Ohio State. It's like such a better division than Minnesota, and they get teams like Wisconsin and Purdue. Those are the teams contending in that conference. BYU, they won. I was firmly like, I saw Wyoming plus 21.5, took that, won that. By the way, that's a tough Wyoming defense, though. You gotta give those guys credit. They had the upset victory against Air Force just the following week, and really they've been playing better ball since kind of getting annihilated in the opener against Illinois. But BYU, they continue to win. They're a good squad. I think they're my only team that is not a Power 5 squad on this top 25. So I'm hoping to see more like group of 5 teams kind of sneak in here, but there's not very many. On to number 20 being Arkansas. Tough loss against Texas A&M. They had to travel to A&M College Station, and they were up early, and they basically let the game get away from them late. That's why A&M's only one spot ahead of them. I think those are two squads that are very, very evenly, I I guess, matched against one another. They're evenly matched. That's the word I'm looking for. But Arkansas, tough loss. They just entered my top 10, and now they fall here at 20. This week they get, let's see, Arkansas will get Alabama. So Godspeed, good luck. You get them at home, though, and you get a chance to hopefully improve, and hopefully you don't get blown out. I think that's going to be a heck of a game. I almost contemplated putting that as my watch-along this week. My watch-along is actually going to be Ole Miss and Kentucky since they're both undefeated. A&M, offensively, they still don't look great. They still don't. But defense, they're playing well. So they're here at 19. They had the big win against Miami, and now another big win here at home against Arkansas. Washington, they handled Stanford. They're a Midland Pac-12 team, but one you can't just turn a blind eye to. They handled it. They handled it well. Next on the schedule for Washington, I don't think they have... No. They play Friday night against UCLA. So here we go. UCLA, they can enter the top 25, but they got to go through number 18 on my list, Washington. Oregon had a little scare against Washington State, didn't they? Oh, man. I really thought I was about to be dropping Oregon potentially out of the top 25. Now they get Stanford again, a Stanford team that you can't just turn a blind eye to. Tanner McKee is legit. He's a good quarterback. He just needs to get more help. I believe Stanford was without E.J. Smith this past week. I don't know how long he is out for, but luckily for Oregon, they get him there in Eugene. And then Penn State, they played. They certainly played against a Central Michigan team that they were actually playing on par with until the second half. So that was a bit scary. Didn't feel comfortable moving them up my rankings. So they sit here at 16. On to number 15, Baylor. Didn't move Baylor at all because I honestly don't think that they should have came away with. I thought Iowa State outplayed them. I really did. You saw how fired up Matt Campbell was on the sideline saying, we're not getting calls, or, these are bogus calls. It was an interesting game nonetheless. Baylor this week, they get, I mentioned it earlier in the video, I believe it's Kansas State. No, Kansas State got Texas Tech. What does Baylor have? Baylor has, here it is, Oklahoma State. That's right. So this is the first real, I would say, opponent for Oklahoma State. And Baylor, as long as they're playing at home, as long as they don't come in and stink the bed like they did against BYU, then hey, man, again, this Big 12 championship race, it looks legit. It's heating up. And then we got Utah. They won. It was no question. They get a very tough Oregon State team, who Oregon State took USC to like the limit, and they were without Luke Musgrave, who was probably their best offensive weapon there. So yeah, this isn't a freebie. You get them at home, but Utah State this is I would say their first real matchup since Florida. And then NC State, they continued to roll through teams that you expect them to roll through. I think it was UConn this week, but they actually will get challenged against Clemson. They get to face a Clemson team that knocked off Wake Forest in a very close game there. Went to OT. So you're having to travel to Clemson, to Memorial Stadium. So this is it. This is it for NC State. If you're gonna come out and be like, no, we want to win the ACC, you have to win this game. So let's see if NC State is for real. Wake Forest barely losing. They get to go face Florida State in a very interesting matchup there. Unfortunately, they have to travel to Florida State, but I think they looked good in defeat. I really did. Offensively, with Sam Hartman back there, man, they look like they're just an offensive juggernaut. So it's going to be an interesting game there at Florida State. I can't wait to go watch that sucker. Then Oklahoma, they fall because they lost to Kansas. Kansas team that was reeling off of a loss to Tulane. and Oklahoma just kind of crapped the bed. Like, offensively, they looked good, but defensively, they were all over the place. I couldn't believe what I saw from Oklahoma. I expected this team to do better. This week, they get to face the undefeated TCU team, but a TCU team that really hasn't played anybody up until this past week against SMU, and that came, honestly, like, SMU dug themselves in a hole and just wasn't able to get out of it. Like, there were a lot of chances TCU was given to SMU this past week, but Oklahoma, they gotta handle business. You're making the Pac-12 look competitive. I thought y'all were gonna be a team that unquestionably would win that. I got Kentucky at 10. Welcome to the top 10, but you get Ole Miss this week, who I have at 7. I know the AP is not nearly as high on Ole Miss, who kind of struggled with Tulane. They were dealing with some injuries, though, as we saw. Ulysses Bentley didn't play in the game. You saw Zach Evans ended up not playing in the second half. Hopefully they come in this game healthy. They're going to be playing at Ole Miss. So Kentucky, a team that I'm not completely sold on because Will Levis, his play has been a little bit up and a little bit down. So let's see what they can do now against a very legit opponent. I know Kentucky, they faced Florida earlier, but Ole Miss is a better team than Florida. Oklahoma State, they face their first real contender here in Baylor, but the offense looks lights out. Thinking Spencer Sanders looks amazing. Let's see what they can do against Baylor as they open conference plays. I believe this is their first. This is their first. This is essentially their conference opener. Tennessee. What a win against Florida. This is a team that just offensively looks like is a monster. The pass rush has been mean. I talked about them in my prospect, my stock up and stock down stock report. I'm just gonna call it stock report video. I talked about Byron Young, who's a bit of an older prospect, but a guy that's got like ideal length, good burst, and has just been wreaking havoc. So like Tennessee looks kind of legit, and with how vulnerable Alabama looked against Texas, you look at this game or at least you look at Tennessee and it's like, okay, man, watch out for them. I believe they actually have the week off this week, so good. Rest up. Ole Miss, talked a little bit about them. Hopefully they get back on track. This was their first real close game, and it was really a Tulsa team that just want to go into the night quietly. But offensively, this team's looked good. They got a lot of good veterans on that offense and defense. So I think Ole Miss is just a really good team. Clemson, they actually end up jumping Ole Miss just because I think DJU's back. He looked really good. The offense looked really good. The secondary, not so much. And I know the secondary was a bit beat up, but still, now they got to go and face NC State. So we're going to get to see how for real this Clemson team is. That's going to be a fun watch. This is NC State's conference opener. So let's see how legit Clemson is. And I mean, honestly, if DJU is back, then there's a real shot at Clemson making the college football playoff. Then USC, they move up a spot, though it was ugly offensively. They did not look like the juggernauts they have in weeks past against Oregon State. But I was talking about in my last video that you can't, don't undersell Oregon State. That's not a bad squad. That's a pretty good squad a pretty good team that they have there in Oregon State. They were coming to this game undefeated. I believe they were 3-0. Now they're 3-1. But USC, they get Arizona State. Arizona State's, you don't want to look past Arizona State because the team's got talent, but they're not a good squad. This should be a team that they can run up the score on. Michigan, they got the offense didn't look, at least the passing offense didn't look that great. JJ McCarthy didn't look all that against Maryland, but luckily the running game showed up in a big way. Blake Corum looked unbelievable. This dude was just breaking tackles after tackles, breaking off big runs. So that's good. They did let Maryland back in it late, but I feel really good about the defense. I think the defense is playing good football, and it's a shame that they play in the same division as Ohio State because that means they won't be contending if they can't get past Ohio State. Either one of those two, like Michigan, Ohio State. I think only one of those two teams can make the college football playoff, because they won't be contending for their conference title. Only one of those teams gets to go to the conference championship. And I think that's ultimately what will hold back one of these squads from being in the college football playoff, when you look at teams like USC and Clemson, who can win their conference title. And then Alabama, they get to face Vandy, who is like the basement of the SEC. They railroad through them. Who would have thought? Ohio State kind of did the same thing to Wisconsin, though at least Wisconsin put up a little bit more points than Vandy did. Offensively, it looks like Ohio State's business as usual. Matter of fact, I think in that game, C.J. Stroud only went to four different targets that whole game. And then Georgia might have been looking towards the future, because Kent State gave them a run for their money. They don't open SEC play because they've already faced South Carolina, but they get Missouri. Missouri's all right. They're okay. But Georgia, man, that Kent State game, that's not what you wanted to see, man, because we thought this team was like, it was the rest of college. It was Georgia and then the rest of college football. But now Georgia, they look a bit beatable. We saw Stetson Bennett make some mistakes in that game, and Kent State was able to capitalize on that. But overall, still, I think Georgia's the best team in the nation, hands down. Now let's go ahead and get to my Heisman watch, starting with Jalen Daniels. I talked about him earlier in the video. Had a huge outing against Duke. He is the offense for Kansas, and this Kansas team is, I don't know if they're for real, but 4 wins to open the season. Best start in a while. A while for Kansas. He has been doing it on the ground. He's been doing it through the air. He looked very impressive. And then I got Hendon Hooker. The dude was a monster, throwing for over 300 and almost 350 yards. Then he ran for over 100. He had 3 total touchdowns in that game. He just looked unstoppable. There was legit no one stopping Hendon Hooker. He looked great. We need to be talking about this guy as a Heisman candidate. Legit. And then last week I had Caleb Williams number 1, and he had a bit of a let's say he hopes this Oregon State game was a mulligan, because he didn't complete over half of his passes. I think we went for like 40%. He had a touchdown, ran the ball only for 27 yards in a close game against Oregon State that was more defensive than what a lot of people anticipated. And you know what? That's not going to get it done if you're going to be trying to compete for the Heisman. But you do notice that TD went to his favorite target in Jordan Addison. That team still got a lot of gas, so didn't want to drop him too much. And then we got Bryce Young, who, again, business as usual for him against Vandy, 4 touchdowns. It was an easy game for him. Bryce Young, he's a guy that is literally carrying the carcass of Alabama right now, and he is the team. In my opinion, he is the best quarterback prospect in college football. But my number 1, currently, C.J. Stroud, had 5 TD passes against Wisconsin in a stinker. He's playing really good football. He has a good offensive line. He has great weapons. He's got a good defense. I think he just had, in terms of the rest of the Heisman candidates here, he has the most going for him. And I think he's going to have many opportunities to inflate those stats. And if we know anything, man, the Heisman is kind of at times it can be a stat-driven award, and especially for the quarterback position. So I think this is his second week putting up 5 touchdowns. Did he put up 5 against Toledo? But yeah, just stacking that sheet. But that's it for the video. Let me know some guys you think are Heisman candidates, Heisman worthy. I listed all quarterbacks here because, man, it's easy for the quarterback position to take home that reward. But who's really caught your eye? Like, I think in terms of, if we're going to talk about guys outside of the quarterback position, Bijan, I think, has been the best running back in the nation. Just unfortunately had the fumble this week. In the receiver category, I honestly don't think there's been outside of Jordan Addison, I really think guys like you got Charlie Jones from Purdue, blanking on Rashee Rice from SMU has been lighting it up as well. But I really think it's just it's been the quarterback show this year. But let me know in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.